This podcast is brought to you in part by a special group of individuals that I like to call my Patreon podcast producers, and all of them are over on Instagram. So please stop what you're doing right now and go show them some love, because they're showing big love to this podcast. Daryl at Your Level Fitness, Amy at Gem of the Gym, that's GEM of the GYM, Kaitlyn at Kaitlyn Elise, put 3 Y's in her name, Crystal at Reduced Fat Mama, Emily at M is the Biggest Loser, that is EM is the Biggest Loser, Joey at Joey Losing Weight, Vanessa at Vanessa Ray's Journey, and Amber at amber.l.ables. Follow all of these amazing people. Their contributions to this show are pushing it farther forward than I could have ever imagined, and I'll be forever grateful for their support. And if you want to join this special group, listen at the end of the show for more details. Are you Team Apple? I got to shout out all of you checking out this show right now on an iPhone, iPad, etc. In fact, nearly 70% of you are listening to me on one of these devices. It would mean the world to me if you took a moment to leave a review. This is one of the best things that you can do for this podcast to help get the word out. And while you're at it, leave reviews for some of your other favorite shows. I bet they would really dig it. Oh, yeah! Just as I rang you, my video was finally done exporting.
Of course.
Yes,
Good
yes.
timing, huh?
I was like, this is the craziest thing, like editing videos on your phone and all this stuff. I mean, you're a tech guy, so you'll get it, but like it's ridiculous.
So you edit right on your phone, huh?
Yeah. I'm using I have my GoPro that I use to record my yoga workouts. I know it's like the least exciting thing you can do with the GoPro is record a freaking yoga workout in a hyperlapse mode, but it works.
Oh, nice. Yeah, you got to get that thing attached to a mountain bike or something, though, so you look cool.
Yeah, I know. I feel like I'm like the least cool. Like I dare anyone listening to find a more lamer GoPro person than me who's filming his yoga workouts.
There's probably some guy out there like planting flowers, videoing using a GoPro or something. I'm sure somebody's got you tapped.
Yeah, it's possible. You and Kaitlyn ever mount a GoPro onto your kayaks?
We haven't. We talked about it a couple of times, but man, those things are expensive. And then I never know which one to get. I looked them up a couple of times, and I don't know. There's what is there, like all the way up to like the 7 now, but they still sell like the 3. The Hero 3 or whatever. I don't even know.
I mean, dude, if you're just filming like, here I am sitting on a boat, like doing my kayaking business, you could probably get away with like a Hero 5. And I've seen those go on Facebook, like Marketplace, for around 150.
Oh yeah, that's not bad then.
Not,
I don't know. Maybe
not terrible. And I mean, the 7's great for stabilization. I had my video rig when we were in Cincinnati, and the stabilization on that was just ridiculous. Like we've all seen the GoPro like stuttery, like like vomit inducing videos, and this was like the least intrusive of all of them that I've ever seen.
Yeah, I watched that whole vlog too. That turned out pretty awesome. The couple of days of the flying pig.
Oh yeah, man. Thanks. That was the first video that I ever used with the GoPro, and what inspired it, 2 things. Number one was that run, because I wanted to get run footage, and I'm the kind of guy, I'm sure you probably get into this a time or two, but like watching like unboxing and reviews on stuff. Mm-hmm. Kaitlyn tells me you're a big tech guy, so I'm just automatically assuming that you've done that a time or two. And then, so that was that was like part 1. And then I remember I was at a vaping convention with my cousin. I don't vape, but he dragged me up here and told me it was all free. And then I ended up having to pay for half the damn thing. But he was like, I just need a ride up here. And so I took him up there, and I seen one of those YouTubers who had the GoPro strapped to his backpack, and he was doing a hyperlapse of him walking through an airport. And so that footage that you saw on day 1 was heavily inspired by that shot that I saw.
Yeah, that was all pretty cool. It very professional. I was impressed.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I remember. So we did the podcast with Kaitlyn. This would have been when people are finally hearing this. It's like 2 months ago. And she was like, "Oh yeah, I'm on this fancy computer setup. My husband's like into gaming and stuff, and he's got this fancy setup." And so this is kind of the weird thing, Jesse, because like this doesn't happen, right? So I interview somebody, and then like a month or two later, I end up hearing from their spouse, and they're like, I want to come on the podcast. And I'm like, all right, cool. Let's do it. Like this is a first. So we are making history here on the Gary Cantrell podcast.
Well, there's two sides to every story, so I have to come back and set everything straight that she said. So.
Oh my God, how many errors did she have on this podcast? And don't lie, just because you want brownie points.
I really don't think she had any. I'm just kidding. I mean, it was pretty accurate.
No, I'm kidding too. Yeah. But it was cool though. We ended up meeting in Cincinnati. So this is kind of the rare thing. Like, if you've ever heard any of these shows, it's always normally people I've never spoken to, never met. Once in a while, there's someone that I've come across or spoken to, but that's very, very rare.
Yeah, it's funny. Actually, if you go watch the vlog, you can see the moment that we met.
Yes, isn't that crazy?
Shook hands. Yeah. So yeah, and I mean, I kind of knew, I knew who you were through Kaitlyn, you know, and she told me. I remember she got the hard work always wins shirt, and I knew she was following some people on Instagram and talking to some people, and I was like, well, whatever works, if they're, if these are, she's like, these people are awesome, they're really motivating. She gets this shirt, and I'm like, well, I like that, that's I love, the hard work always wins.
Yeah.
Mantra thing, and I'm like, that's awesome. And she started sporting that, and she's like, well, you gotta check out Gary. And I think I just kind of went and scrolled through. I'm not, there's a few people out there that definitely follow me on Instagram just because they're fans of yours, and we met through the Flying Pig thing. But anybody else, I have like 100 followers on Instagram. I do not post much. I posted today because I knew if I didn't, you'd give me a hard time.
Oh boy.
But I'm not huge into the Instagram. Obviously she has just 1,000 followers or something, and she's got all these people she's talking to, but she totally drugged me to Cincinnati for that thing, but it was awesome, man. Everybody I met there was, just the greatest type of people. They're very motivating, great people to be around. It was fun. I had a blast, and I'm looking forward to next.
Well, be careful now, because at some point in this podcast, probably a couple times, we're going to drop your IG handle. And if I have my way, you're going to have more than a couple of people probably writing a comment on every one of your posts telling you to post more. Like, it's probably going to happen. I'm just saying.
There's going to be like 1,000 comments of just post more.
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of interesting too, having the spouse on the podcast as well. And then you've got your own story. We're going to get into all that, believe me. But like when your wife is like, yeah, I'm hanging out on Instagram and I met all these people, like, is there any part, obviously you guys are like really happy. You guys are super cool, but like, is there any like skepticism? Like, wait a minute, you mean to tell me you're talking to all these strangers on the internet? Like, is there any of that like early on?
There wasn't too much, right? Because I played video games. We kind of covered that a little bit.
Yeah.
So I kind of owed her one for the Cincinnati thing, because there was this guy that we started playing video games. Actually, two guys that I started playing video games with a lot. And we became pretty good friends through doing that. And I learned that the guy has he has like an 8,000 acre ranch. His family does in Oklahoma, and so in talking with him, I'm a big hunter, and I got permission through him and his family to come down and hog hunt his property. So I drug her all the way from Wisconsin, where we live, to Oklahoma to go hog hunting, meeting this guy that I'd never met in person, off the internet in middle of nowhere, Oklahoma. For anybody in that area, we were outside of Antlers, Oklahoma, which is a huge metropolis of like 500 people live in Antlers, I think. And we were 30 minutes outside of that. So, going to Cincinnati and when we were staying in this guy's house and everything,
yeah.
So this was pretty weak sauce compared to what I drug her through. So I had no hesitation. We were fine.
That's a brave gal you got there. Like, you just imagine like, yeah. Hey baby, look, so here's the deal. So there's this guy, like, he's my buddy, but we've never met ever. Okay. Yeah. Okay, honey. Okay. And so we're going to go hang out. Okay. We're going to go all the way to Oklahoma and stay at his place, and go hunting. Like, is that, wait a minute. What are you talking? You know, I can just imagine the conversation in my head.
Yeah, she was pretty much on board from the get-go. She had, she gave me a super hard time about it, of course, right? But
of course,
she's my wife. She has to. But I don't know. She jumped right on board. She was all about it. And she actually, she was going to spend the whole time hanging out with his wife. Right. But in the time between when I got the invite and we'd set it up and everything, and the time I got there, they got divorced,
right,
and were separated. So she actually went and hung out with his ex-wife, though. She took her all around, and they went and did a bunch of girl stuff or whatever. And
oh boy,
and it was a pretty civil kind of breakup, I guess. So
yeah.
And we spent the entire time hunting hogs. Did not shoot a single hog, just to top that off. It was a bust of a trip. I think I saw 2 hogs the whole time, and could not get a clean shot at either of them. So
I'll tell you what, I don't know a ton about hunting. Like, here's the thing, because like, I guarantee you it's like 50-50. There'll be people that are listening to this like, oh my God, I hate hunting. It's so wrong and all this stuff. And like, then there'll be people that like you enjoy it and all that kind of stuff. I know nothing, but I play it right down the middle. Like, I don't care if you want to go hunt. And the people don't like it, I get that too. But like, I know nothing about it. Like, to you, like, if you could have summed it up to somebody that like is maybe like me, it's down the middle, doesn't really have an opinion either way. Like, how would you sum it up in like a sentence or two of like the thrill you get from it, the excitement you get from it?
So for me, I think there's a lot of people out there, I guess, that when they look at hunting, they think of this like blood sport, right? Like, you're just out to kill animals and you don't care about anything. But I am definitely part of, I would say the majority of hunters are hardcore conservationists. They really care about the environment. They really care about what's around. And they go out and they're harvesting an animal because they want to know where their food comes from. They want you have a deeper connection to it, right? Like, you can go buy a hamburger in the grocery store, but you don't understand where that cow lived, its conditions, how it was treated, right? I know that from the time I take an animal, I'm ethical. I always take the time to take, a clean shot and to make sure that when I dispatch an animal, I do it quickly, right? I'm not, I don't want to make an animal suffer. I'm not in it for the blood sport, but there's a deep connection there to where your food came from, the whole process of it, from the time you harvest an animal to butchering and processing the meat to cooking. I mean, there's a really deep connection that's hard to explain to somebody that hasn't done it.
Sure. But
I'm invested into everything around hunting, taking care of, the places that I hunt. I always try and leave, basically essentially leave no trace, right? Anything I pack in comes out with me. I'm not somebody out there, you get the image of of the hunter and you think about this, guy sitting in Blaze Orange drinking beers and throwing them on the ground and, and waiting to shoot a deer. And I really, it's kind of a poor image, of what I think that most hunters are about. There's definitely a small percentage that ruin it for a lot of us.
It's always the vocal minority. Like, you get the one opinion out there and everybody, like the minority people hear it and they voice their opinion very strongly either way, whether you're pro or against, and I just think stuff gets so out of hand so quickly. Like, I wish more people were just like laid back and chill and stuff, but you're never going to have that. I'm living in la la land at that point.
Yeah. And if there's anybody out there that wants to kind of maybe understand a little bit more of why people hunt, that maybe they've never hunted, or they don't get it, I would suggest hop on Netflix and check out the show Meat Eater.
Okay.
It's hosted by Steven Ranella, who's a fantastic hunter and conservationist, and he goes through that process, and you really kind of feel like you're along with him on the hunt,
right?
And you start to understand maybe a little bit more of why people hunt.
Okay.
It's definitely not a necessity in today's world.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
And that's where I think a lot of people are like, well, you don't need to, right? You can go to the grocery store, you can get farm animals, you could eat, it's very easy to eat, vegan or vegetarian meals, and they're right. I don't have to, but it's something that I truly enjoy.
Fair enough. I'll tell you what, before it escapes me too far away, we were mentioning Cincinnati briefly. How did that come up? Like, I feel like I've seen posts where you guys have gone out and run before. So this is not your first rodeo, right?
That was actually my first race.
Wow. Okay. There you go.
Yeah. Last year I was supposed to do a race with Kaitlyn. She talked about it in her podcast with you, or your podcast with her, however that works.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. About doing the race for her birthday, where she got all of her friends together. She had like 20 some people out, and I was supposed to do that. But 3 months prior, I had totally destroyed my ankle and broke my leg, and I was unable to run in that. I was barely walking at that point.
Yeah.
So I missed that one. I still got the t-shirt because I was signed up way ahead of time.
Yeah.
Which is really the important part, right?
Of course. T-shirt in the medal. T-shirt in the medal.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was signed up for that, missed it. And then, it was, I want to say it was maybe December or January. She mentioned, this, she's like, do you want to go to Cincinnati and run this flying pig 10K? And I'm like, a 10K? I'm like, I haven't even ran a 5K, but my goal was to run a 5K before my 30th, which is in July.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I destroyed it. I ran a 10K.
That's awesome. Yeah. I find it so fascinating. So like when we met, and like you mentioned on the vlog, it's right there, our first handshake and exchange and all that. I think after the cameras cut off, we were having a little bit of a conversation, and we discovered that we were actually in the same hotel. We didn't even know this. Yep. The last night, which was actually the second night, we were only there for 2 days. My wife and I were only there for 2 days. Yep. You guys drop us off from the final meetup. We find out not only are we in the same hotel, we're on the same floor. We're actually next door neighbors. Like, I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, telling my wife, like, I'm whispering. I'm like, I hope they didn't hear us. I hope we weren't too loud talking about our taxes. I'm kidding.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course.
No worries. They have very soundproof walls, I assume. So.
Are you kidding? My ass came back and went to bed.
Yeah.
Forget that.
I didn't hear you snoring. So
yeah, there you go. That's what I meant, by the way. We're snoring.
Yeah.
No, I just thought it was funny. I was like, we're staying at the same place. I mean, it's not a huge hotel, but it's like, it's a pretty decent size. And I'm like, what are the odds that we're in the same floor and next door neighbors and not even know it?
Yeah. Yeah. That was funny.
That's wild.
Yeah. I don't know how we didn't run into each other, like walking out to go to events or anything the entire first part of that weekend. I
feel like you guys might have been at the race before we were, because I know, like, well, for Friday, I think you guys got in after we did, number one, because we were in town by like noon. We were in a Uber on the way to the zoo by like 1 o'clock, and then we came over to the expo, and then my wife got sick and we had to leave, and so we were pretty much confined to our room for the rest of the night, except for when I went out and got her some stuff. And then Saturday, I think you guys made it up there before we did, because we didn't get up there probably 8:30, 9 o'clock, I want to say.
Oh yeah, we were up there at like 6:30. Kaitlyn will be early to everything. I've learned that. So I just let her pick the time we leave. So yeah, we left the hotel at like 6 in the morning.
Good Lord.
We were like the third car into that rideshare parking lot, the Lyft rideshare, whatever they had.
Yeah.
That reserve lot over there.
I'm normally very early, but with her not feeling so well, like I wanted to make sure like that morning, like she was good. And I was a little bit like, geez, I'm like worn out. We had walked around this damn zoo all day. It was like 2 miles. We walked around this zoo and I was like, man, what the hell was I doing walking around the zoo before this race? Seriously.
I didn't even head over there. Is it a pretty large zoo?
Yeah, it's huge. And there's so many hills, dude. Like, whew, oh my God, so many hills.
It's a good pre-workout, right?
Yeah, it's a hell of a warm up. Let me tell you, you get up the next day and your body's sore. You're like, wait a minute, I got to go 6.2, and I just walked 2, almost 3 something for the 2 of it in the zoo, and then the rest is walking around the city. So, it was crazy.
So speaking of the 6.2,
yeah.
No, I watched the vlog, right? So I got the kind of the synopsis there, but was there? I mean, at what point did you really start to feel that run?
Man, probably in mile, a little bit over mile 3, because keep in mind I'd done 2 5Ks before, so like I don't want to say they were no big deal because I was feeling those when I did those, but like I almost felt like because I knew it was longer, mentally I was paced in a whole different zone at like where like mile 3 or so, I was really starting to feel it. The first 2, I mean, I was sweating, I was winded, and obviously I was walking quite a bit of it and jogging some of it. But by mile 3 or so, 3.5, it really set in. How about you?
So mine was right about that mile 4 sign as you're coming up over the second bridge there.
Oh yeah.
And oh man, I started to feel it pretty bad. And I thought that was, we'd kind of looked ahead and seen, okay, so, you can look at like, what's the vertical elevation change of the route, right? They show you that online.
Yeah.
And I thought that this was like the big hill that they shown on there running up to that bridge. And I was like, all right, it's pretty much all downhill from here. I'm like, great. And we run over the other side. And then you realize that, nope, the big hill was in front of you now. And I was totally gassed at that point. I mean, it was everything I could to keep going those last like 2 miles. It was pretty much pure torture, but
it was brutal.
I was determined. Yeah. At that point, I also knew I was gonna finish. Like I was ahead of where I wanted to be in time.
Yep.
And I was like, all right, I've got plenty of time. We can kind of slow down here and pace this out a little bit more and not injure ourselves or anything. And me and Kaitlyn ran side by side the whole way through. And so we got it done, but man, it was hard. It was hard.
I want to say you guys were you guys were a little bit ahead of us, weren't you? You finished like maybe a minute or 2 before.
We finished at just over 1:30.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. I didn't come in until like 1:38, I want to say.
Yeah. You weren't far behind us. I remember at one point you passed us and then we passed you back. But I mean, that's not what it's about anyway. So, the goal was the finishing, and it was fun. It was fun.
It really helps though, like to have a partner there. Cause like, I had Rachel at Reshape Rachel, shout out to her. She's super awesome. Her and I met up around like mile 1 point something or other. I don't even remember, but like, she's like, oh, hey, what's up? What's going on? We started like chatting as we were like gently jogging, and we were like, okay, you know what? We're just going to stick together for the rest of this damn thing. And like, so having that partner and like, we were just picking goals, like, okay, like we could see like 3rd sign down. Let's push it to there. And once we get to there, we'll walk a little bit, catch our breath, and we pick another like landmark, and then boom, like run off. And then once we hit that part, slow down again. So like we were doing kind of like interval type stuff. It really helped.
That's the same thing me and Kaitlyn were doing. There was no way I was going to be able to run the whole thing. Although we're running a 5K in August, and my goal is to try and run that entire 5K. We'll see if I get there.
Oh man, you can do it. I'm sure that you can. Anything's possible. It's just once you get there and your body's like, screw you. We're slowing down here, kid. I don't know about you. We're slowing down. You can think that you're going to run.
Yeah, sometimes things just don't want to work that way.
Yeah, exactly. Like I was doing a podcast with this guy, Peter, and he was like, we were talking about the Rocky Run. It's in November in Philadelphia. And he's like, oh, hey man, let's, I was telling, he's like, I was like, I think, after the Flying Pig, I think I'm going to want to do probably a 5 just to be safe. Cause there's no 10K there. Like it's only 5. Then there's a 10 miler and there's the 13.1 Italian Stallion Challenge. And I was like, yeah, I think, because there's no middle ground, I think a 5 will be good. I'll get up there, get my medal, get a little run in the cold and whatever. He's like, oh man, hell with that. You got to do the Italian Stallion Challenge. I'm flying all the way from Isle of Man and we're going to come do it together. And I'm like, oh boy, what have I got myself into?
So you're doing it?
Dude, I don't know about that. I'm like terrified. Like, so here's the thing. So like, if you go on their website, it's Rocky Run. I think it's rockyrun.com. I have zero affiliation with them. I'm making it sound like I'm plugging them, but check it out. But I think like, so you do the 5K first and you must maintain like a 13-minute a mile pace. That gets you to the start line of the 10.1 and to enter that race. And so once you enter that race, then you're in it. So I'm just like, I could probably do a 13-mile pace if I really pushed. I was averaging between 14 and 15 on this one, but I'm like, man, that just seems really daunting to me. I don't know.
Yeah, that's intense. When I was training for the 10K, I was able to run, like my first mile, I could run, I could get like a under 12 minutes, like 11 and change, right?
Yeah.
But then they just progressively get like 40, 50 seconds longer a
Oh,
mile.
yeah.
I can't sustain it all. So to try and sustain, a 13-minute pace would be, we're big guys, we're both big guys. That's cruising,
Yeah, that's some serious speed right there. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think it can be done, but you got to factor in like it's Philadelphia in November. It's going to be like blistering ass cold in November.
Yeah, at least at least the sun's not going to be beat on you though, right? I mean,
yeah, but then you're gonna be like, oh, it's so freaking cold. Like, it's gonna be pretty brutal. Like, I'm doing the run regardless. I just don't know if I'm doing the 5 or the Italian Stallion Challenge, and I haven't quite made up my mind. We'll see what happens. You know what? Actually, Jesse, I should do what you did to me, and I should say, hey, you know what? You should come down to this race, and you should do the 13.1 because screw it, why not? Because I'm sitting here drunk as hell, and I'm going to challenge you in the middle of the night.
I was a little bit intoxicated. We visited almost all of the breweries, I think, in Cincinnati that day. But yeah, no, so the challenge, right? So I threw out the challenge, the 10K and the 5K, which I'm doing with you. I didn't just throw that out to you without doing it. I'm signed up. But
that's fair.
I mean, we got a year. We'll do it.
I think we'll do it. I have no doubt. I mean, but it's the 10K, then the 5. It's not the 5 and then the 10. Right. So you got to go that 6.2 and then get your ass into the start line for the 5. And then like after, how we felt after that 10K. So you can only imagine like, hey, wait a minute, you got another 3.2 miles to go there, kid.
Man, I'm a big dreamer, right? Like I always dream big and then I try and like break it down. Like, how am I going to get there? So, like I said, my goal for August is I want to run that whole 5K. Right. And then, I don't know where it is from there, but that's my next goal. And eventually the goal is for next year, Flying Pig, to do the 10K and 5K. And if I really push it, I'll try and run it, but I don't think that's going to happen. Like run the whole thing.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I'll do what I can, get as close as I can to that.
Yeah, anything's possible. I don't know. I'll tell you what, I'll put it out to the listeners. If I can get at least 5 people that like screenshot, hey, I just bought Italian Stallion Challenge for the Rocky Run, and they'll do it with me, then I'll, screw it, I'll do it. But if not, I'm going it. I'm doing the 5K, and I don't want to hear about it. My wife, though, on the other hand, she not only did she sign up for the Pig next year, the 5K, but she's also doing the Rocky Run with me as well. I'm like, damn, who is this woman? Like, I love her to death, and she's always been super inspiring to me, and I think she caught the running bug from this past weekend.
Yeah,
or not this past weekend, excuse me, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's like 3 weeks ago now,
something like that. Yeah.
So I'm not naturally like a runner either. I do not enjoy running. It's not something I've ever enjoyed. But there's something about it, right? With all those people, and you've got all these people that are they're all their goal is the same thing, right? We're all trying to get healthier. We're all trying to do something. And this is a big challenge for all of us. And to get out there, I even when I was hurting, I had a smile on my face the whole time. It was just fun, and it was inspiring, and that's what kind of got me going for it,
right?
So just a solid group of people, and it's fun.
Oh yeah. That's I know we've got like Daryl and I were looking over like who all's coming. It's like, good God, man, we've got like nearly double the people that signed up from the this past year. I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. Like, I guess a lot of people saw the pictures and the posts and they're like, man, I want to be a part of this thing.
Yeah, and it's still 11 months out, man. Who knows how many more people are going to sign up? If
I have my way, we're going to have like 1,000 damn people there, like ready to go. Like that's my dream, because like with this community, and this is, I bust your balls a little bit about getting on Instagram, but like, I mean, you see it with Kaitlyn and everything. I'm just like, man, this community is like something really special. And I wouldn't be where I was right now if I didn't have the support of everybody. Just like the same support I'll throw out to them. Like, I really feel like we all in a way lift each other up. So when I go to you and I say, Jesse, you need to get your ass on Instagram and post a little bit more, like, I'm just like, man, this is like something really special to be a part of this whole group. It's really awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I've said it a couple of times now. Everybody was incredible. Very, very nice people.
Yeah.
If anybody's on the fence about thinking out, if they're like, oh man, it's weird, just going to meeting a bunch of people on the internet, I promise you that lasts for about 3 seconds.
Yeah.
And then you're like, these are the people that, I've known what they post. They preach it, they preach it and they act it out. Right. They're not just talking the talk, they're walking the walk, and encouraging, there was not one negative word that I heard the entire time, just awesome people.
Yeah. So everybody was so cool. And
worth the trip.
Daryl was, of course, flexing with his 2 phones. I always got to give him crap because he's like Mr. Big Shot with his 2 phones, whipping them out for the camera and everything. I'm just like, Daryl, put your phones away, man. Like, I know you think you're cool. Just, chill out, bro. It's all right.
Yeah. I run 2 phones too,
You run 2 phones? Oh my God. So we got competition now. We got Daryl, your level fitness, Mr. Big Time. And then we got J-Wo over here, who's got the 2 phone action. He's rocking out too. So this is crazy. We might have a competition next year.
Yeah, but you got to have the work phone and then the personal phone, right? I mean, the one's supplied by the company. It's not like I own it. I don't know if I guess Daryl runs his own thing, right? So
he's his own man.
He does, yeah. So he's self-made man. So he's running both those phones. But
yeah,
maybe I'll have to bring the other phone. I left the work phone at home last time. I'll bring them both just so I can flex back at him next year.
You got to flex. We have to have a flex off next year in Cincinnati.
Yeah, I mean, I'm running I got my work phone's the iPhone 7 Plus.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know you're a big iPhone guy. And then my personal phone's the Google Pixel 3.
Boo! So a bunch of people's car speakers just blew up right there.
Yeah. You're gonna get a bunch of lawsuits and notices in the mail.
It's gonna happen. So I was actually seeing the picture you posted today. You don't have to say where, obviously. What industry are you in that you're climbing almost 200 feet in the air?
So I do industrial and commercial HVAC service work. So I'm the pictures that I post on Instagram obviously are all over the place. I'm not working in one spot. I work out of a service van, and I travel all over the southern part of the state of Wisconsin. So we live just outside Madison. So that's kind of the area I work in. So yeah, that was a place that they grind corn for like cornmeal, food process, and other industry. I don't know all who their customers are, but so the whole process there is gravity fed. So yeah, I was up on the top level of their building working on an air handler 160 feet in the air.
Is that common to be that high, or is that just like an anomaly? Like just today is like a rare time where you just go climbing?
Around here, that's definitely one of the taller ones that I gotta access and stuff. That's 7 double stories is how that building is. So they're all like to 20 foot stories or whatever. But there's a couple other spots I get that high up, but most of the time it's a few stories, 3 or 4 stories up or something. I mean, either way, if you fall, you're not going to do so hot. So
yeah. Well, we were talking about GoPros. That would have been a cool shot. Put it on your head, mounted on your head, and just people can watch you climb up. There's people that make like millions of dollars on YouTube, and all they do is like run across roofs and everything. Like there's this guy I follow called Ali Law, and like he actually goes and like breaks into places, not like breaks into steal stuff, but like he'll I've seen him like climb to the top of the O2 Arena in London just because he could. He had like the GoPro mounted to his chest or his head or something, and you just watch him like running from this roof to that roof to that roof and climbing up this ladder, and he's like 400 feet in the air. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah, that one today was pretty easy. There's an elevator that takes me all the way up there.
You should have made it sound really cool. You should like, I was climbing up this ladder, and I was sweating, and I had, a carabiner clip tied to this ladder, and I was climbing up. Like, we could have made it sound really cool, Jesse, but then like you just said, well, I took an elevator.
Yeah, I took an elevator. Yeah, the elevator goes all the way up to the roof on that one, which is pretty nice because when I first started working out there, they hadn't had the approval for the elevator yet. It wasn't certified. Yeah. And so I had to take the stairs. That was pretty brutal.
Oh man. You ever go to the gym and get on a stair climber?
I haven't. I know you do. You used to do like the 100 stair challenge things, right? Or something, or 100 floors.
Daryl claims fame to actually like making it a challenge and like inspiring people to go and do it. Now, if we want to get technical here, before Daryl came along with his challenges, I was just casually like a weird flex, but okay, like posting like myself, like going up 337 floors. That was my record. But normally,
holy cow.
Yeah, normally it averaged like 100 to 125, maybe 150 if I was feeling froggy. But there was a day where I hit 337, and that was a result of a couple of weeks where I was like hitting the 2s, 250, and I was like, I'm going to try to get to 3, and eventually I made it to 3. But I'll tell you what, you talk about climbing stairs, that is one of the most brutal workouts that you can possibly do, is going up a stair stepper.
Oh yeah, I haven't done the stair stepper, but obviously the actual flights of stairs like that where you're doing multiple, man, and I'm totally gassed after like the 14 floors, dude. I mean, that had me wore out. I can't imagine doing 357. I don't think I physically could. I don't right now. I mean, there's no way.
I'll tell you what, I signed up and I didn't get approved, and I'm really bitter about it. But at the Empire State Building, every year they have a run where like you have to enter a sweepstakes to pay for the privilege of running up the stairs of the Empire State Building. It's like 102 floors, but I think the observation deck is like on floor 87. But they have a race where like, you dress up like you're at a 5K or 10K and you go race upstairs. It's crazy.
Oh man.
I would have loved that.
I wonder what the actual distance is on that. If it actually comes out to something, you know what I mean? Like if you were to run that flat, that'd be interesting.
No telling. I would love to know myself, but I hope maybe next year. I'm tell you what, I'm gonna sign up for this damn thing every year until they approve me.
Yeah, you gotta give it a shot. That's a pretty cool challenge.
Yeah. I mean, I wish they probably don't do it for security reasons, but I wish they'd just let you take the stairs and, I'll go at my leisure and find out what my time is.
Maybe you could go in there and just tell them you have like a fear of elevators or something and try and convince them to let you go.
Now you're talking. Stairs. I didn't think about that angle. Like, guys, I'm afraid of the elevator. What else do you have?
You wear a white hard hat and a yellow vest, and you can get into anywhere you want to. Just walk in there with that, hand it off to somebody and go run those stairs. All
right. You might be onto something there, Jesse. I don't know. I'm like wondering if I can connive my way up there and see how that works out. But we'll have to see how that goes. Tell me a little bit about your story, because I mean, you mentioned earlier, wanting to get healthy and all that stuff. I mean, when you look back to childhood and all that stuff, I mean, was weight, being out of shape, was that always an issue, or like when did that begin for you?
So, I mean, it wasn't, as a kid, I was really active, right? I was never like, I'm pretty techie now, but I wasn't, I didn't have video games at home. And so I was always out, playing backyard football and jumping on the trampoline and, hiking down through the forest and,
you were
doing
all
that
about
kind of
the
stuff
adventure.
with my friends. Yeah. I was outside pretty much all summer long, hunting or fishing and, doing anything I could as a kid. But, even at that time, I never really had a real healthy relationship with food. I, I, I had a stay at home mom and she cooked dinner every night. And it was always like these enormous meals, it'd be like pot roast and mashed potatoes and gravy and, all the fixings. And, and it was always, she always made an enormous amount of food and we always ate an enormous amount. Now, as a kid, I was burning tons of calories out doing all this stuff. So it was never a problem. I was always maybe just a little bit pudgy, but I wasn't fat, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't the big fat kid. I was pretty normal size. As I got older, through high school and stuff, I kind of maintained that. I was just kind of pudgy. I didn't really put on weight until after high school. So,
yes.
I was, after high school, I was working a job. I hadn't really figured out what I wanted to do for a career yet. And I had a buddy that was really into working out and I started working out with him. And I mean, we were going to the gym, we'd go like 5 days a week, like 3-4 hours at a time. We were working out nonstop and I was in good shape at that time. I was 18, 19 years old.
Right.
But at the same time, when you're working out like that, you can again just eat whatever you want pretty much. I mean,
sure,
you shouldn't, but I didn't have a good relationship with food still. I hadn't learned, how do you eat a balanced meal? What's, macros. I didn't even understand what a macro was, right? Like
I still don't, by the
proteins. Way. Yeah, I don't really get it 100% either, if I'm being honest, but I sounded really good. So, but I didn't understand, like, how do you eat a nice balanced meal? How do you do that? I just would eat whatever I wanted. It was a lot of carbs. It was a lot of junk, and at that time is when, I started developing a relationship with Kaitlyn. And so that was taking time away from that. And I stopped going to the gym to spend time with the girl I liked.
Sure.
But I didn't stop eating like I was going to the gym. Right. And I slowly, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that's the crazy thing, right? Because I had a similar situation when I met my wife. We started dating and it was like we were just eating out all the time. And part of the thing was we were traveling a lot because like this is our first summer together. And that's a motherfucker. Excuse me. I got to put up the explicit tag now. Whoops.
Yep.
That's a motherfucker, man. Like when you fall in love in the summer and like we're on the road and we're just living it up and we're just eating and having a good time. And like you get happy, you're falling in love and you put on that happy weight. And that's like a real thing. It should not be understated that the happy weight is like a real thing.
Yeah, no, it is. And about that same time is when I got into my career and with my job, I didn't have a break room anymore where I could, easily pack lunch. I was working out of a work van and all the guys I worked with they ate fast food pretty much for lunch every day. And I just joined in with that, and it slowly the pounds kind of started to pack on. My activity had dropped. I always kind of thought like, well, my job's pretty active now, so I'll be fine.
Sure.
I never really stepped on the scale. I knew I was gaining some weight. And I think when I was gaining weight the first time I was like at 18, at like 19, I was like 190 pounds. Right. Yep. And I'm just over 6'1". So that's not, I was fairly lean, and I had a lot of muscle. So, I think the first time I stepped back onto a scale, I was like 22 years old at this point. It was right around probably the time me and Kaitlyn got married. And I was like, I was like 225 or 230. And I was like, whew, that was a little bit more than I kind of thought it was,
Sure.
And then I didn't really think about it. I never changed anything. I just kind of kept going with it. And finally, and if anybody listening just goes and listens to Kaitlyn's podcast, you'll kind of understand where we had kind of gone, we talked about eating healthier. We talked about changing. We were going out to eat all the time. We were doing that kind of stuff. And then there's the day where, she had the medical thing and she came back home and she's like, this is it. We're doing it. We're getting healthy. And we started eating healthy And I think it took me probably a month before I was brave enough to step on the scale. And I know if I'm tracking by how much I lost, I know probably approximately what I weighed. But that day, it was about a month later, I was 282.
Okay.
So I'd put on, I'm assuming I'd put on almost 100 pounds from the time I was 19 at 20, 28 years old then. So
yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, and it never felt like it. The sad thing is that even when I was 190 pounds, I thought I was fat at that time.
Oh yeah.
And I never looked at, it's always so interesting how your vision of yourself, right? And at 282, I still didn't see where I'd gained the weight. Like when I looked in the mirror, I knew I was bigger, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, but I wasn't like, oh man, I'm really fat. I kind of never really noticed the change. It was so subtle over so much time. Does that make sense? I guess.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. I mean, like, here's the thing, like you see photos of yourself all the time and you're like, it's whatever. Like you see yourself in the mirror. I mean, and when I say photos you take of yourself. And now I don't know that you take a lot of photos. Like I take way too many damn photos, especially on a weight loss journey that I encourage it. But point is like, you can take a photo and you're like, all right, it's cool, whatever, I'm good. Somebody else takes that photo and you see the wrong angle and it's game over. Like you're like, oh my God, like something is wrong. That's what got me started. I saw the photo at my cousin's wedding. I was like, holy crap, this is bad.
Yeah. It's when somebody else, points out, and it's like, it started with, like my buddies, like my good buddies, right? They started kind of, poking at me about it a little bit. You know how your friends are, right? They're going to find that thing and just kind of give you a hard time about it.
Of course they will. 'Cause they're your friends. They should, right?
Right. Yeah. They should, I guess. That's how it works.
Yeah.
So, and they'd given me, kind of a hard time about it, but I was like, man, they gave me a hard time about stuff before and it was no big deal, but I just hadn't even, like, that day when I stepped on the scale, I saw it was 282. I was like devastated. I'm like, holy cow, how did I get here?
That's the question, right? How do we get here? And then like you have that like the anxiety, like, oh my God, sky is falling. I'm in terrible shape. And then, all right, how do we fix it? Or that's at least the question you hope that you're asking.
Yeah. And that is a difficult thing, right? Because obviously I have a food addiction, right? And I'm totally okay with calling it an addiction. I know there's some people that are like, well, I just don't eat as healthy, or I need to go on a diet. Like I'm addicted to eating good food.
Right.
And good food isn't always good for you. There are good things. I've discovered a lot of good things that are good for you. But,
yeah, I know the feeling.
But I would, I'd do the giant McDonald's order and all that stuff. And I'm a food addict. I'm a food addict to this day. That's not going to change. And unfortunately, when you're a food addict, you have to get this thing that everybody calls a healthy relationship with food.
Yes.
Right. And it's almost kind of laughable to me because, nobody goes to a heroin addict and says, hey, you just need to have a healthy relationship with heroin.
Yeah.
If you were just doing a little bit, or an alcoholic, right? And just says, well, if you just limited yourself to, maybe just a 6-pack a week, you'd be all right,
Mm-hmm.
and it's an incredibly difficult thing to do. And I'm not trying to say other addictions aren't, they obviously are, right? And it's, an addiction's a horrible thing. I wouldn't wish on anybody to have to go through, but, it's just, to try and form that is so hard, and you win some days and you totally fail others, and it's I don't know, man, it's just so difficult, and I don't think that anybody that hasn't gone through it could possibly understand.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like over 2 years into this thing and I still have my bad days, believe me. I mean, They're real. I mean, and it could be triggered by anything. You could just be mentally in a bad state of mind. Maybe one bad thing happened and it just kind of threw you off. There could be a family thing, a relationship thing. Somebody is injured or, sick, passes away. Like there's a number of things that can absolutely wreck a day. When you have a food addiction, it's a lot like a drug addiction. It's a lot like an alcohol addiction, to where when something bad happens, it is a trigger. And I don't give a damn how good you are on every other day of the week, how good you are going and working out, how good you are with anything. For a long time, you still have this issues where you're going to have your bad days. And I know there's people out there that are listening right now that are probably shaking their heads. Yes, they may not admit to it. They may not feel comfortable admitting to it.
Mm-hmm.
And if they want to DM me and hit me up and privately and say, I'm with you, I'm feeling you, go right ahead. I won't share it out if you don't want. But look, I guarantee that they're feeling that. And here's the thing. There's nothing wrong with that. I know a lot of people will say, oh, there is something wrong. Like, God, you've been at this for years and you better get your act together by now. But that's not how this works. It takes a long time.
Not at all, man. Last year when me and Kaitlyn got started, so this is a good story about going through a rough patch and now getting back on the right track. But,
right.
So I'm sure that anybody that's backtracked will resonate with this. So, we were doing really well, and I had lost, in like 8 months, not even 8 months, I had lost like nearly 40 pounds. I was down at like 238.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm like, this is awesome. Things are going really well. We were eating really healthy. And weight was still just, it was coming off like 10 pounds a month nearly, sometimes, and 5 to 10 a month. It was awesome.
It's incredible.
And yeah, it feels great when you're losing at that rate. You feel like Superman, you're like, I can do anything. This is no problem. I just need to keep on with this and doing what I'm doing. And in a year, you kind of start letting yourself think, you're like, in a year, I'll be where I want to be in a year.
Yep.
I can keep on this exact same path for a year, and it's sort of self-motivating. But unfortunately, last year in June is when I fell out of a tree. I destroy my ankle. I break my leg. I'm now, my job is physical. I'm required to be on my feet, climb ladders. Obviously, you saw the pictures where I've got to get to. I can't do that on crutches with a broken leg, right? So now I'm out of work, and I'm basically stuck on a couch for the next 4-ish months.
Right.
Right. So it's financially devastating because I'm not working. It's mentally devastating because I'm a physical person. I like to be out and about. I want to be doing stuff. I'm not somebody that likes sitting alone. So it was depressing, dude. I got super depressed. I went through, I don't know that I realized it at the time. Looking back, I see it now, but I was incredibly unhappy, and I ate those emotions, man. And I put almost every single pound I lost back on. I was back up when I finally got back up on my feet. I was back up to like 280.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy cow, and I was so angry with myself, right? Like, how could I have done this? All I had to do, all I needed to do that entire time was just eat eat hardly anything. I wasn't burning any calories. So if I just ate enough, to keep myself sustained and breathing, I would have been fine. I could have maintained right through it, but I didn't.
Sure.
I totally went right through that. And so now, is the and then after going through that, and then I was so angry with myself that I didn't get right back on track. I just sat there and I was like, well, what do I do now? All that hard work for nothing. Are you kidding me? It was terrible,
Oh yeah.
and Kaitlyn was still, she was still on the right track, and she was encouraging to me to try and, get back on the right track. And I know that I, to some degree drug her down with me. She didn't put weight back on, but she ended up, instead of, she stopped losing and started maintaining. And, and it was rough there for a while. But really the big thing that was the kick in the butt was like, all right, we're doing this 10K. Okay. So I need to start heading in the right direction. And, I've started, I lost about 10 coming up to the 10K. And I've actually in the last 3 weeks, I've lost almost another 10 after the 10K. It really kicked my butt to like, okay, I need to get back in shape. So I'm now down. I know everything's not a number, but it is a great way to track it too. So
sure.
I'm now back down to like 262.
Oh, that's incredible.
I'm heading back in the right direction. So I'm like 18 pounds down from, again, getting back up. But, I wanted to share that story because anybody that's out there listening, don't get discouraged. If things go backwards, if you lose it, you can't let yourself sit in that spot.
Yeah.
Take a deep breath and, get back to it. You were strong enough to do it before. You're strong enough to do it again.
It takes time. I think that there's two parts of it. There's people that, one, they hit this rough patch and they just say, screw it, I quit. And that's it. And then they will walk away and they never come back. Then there's a percentage of people, I think, that they come back too quick. Like they're like, okay, I got to get back on. I got to get back on. It's a big panic, especially if they're worried about that number. And it's a big panic and they come back too soon. Their heart's not in it. And it starts feeling like it's work again. Like obviously we have to work hard, but like it starts to feel like that stuff that you dread. And then they don't want to do it and they end up quitting. So either way you look at it, either of those two ways, they end up quitting. I think that you have to take it in, perspective and think about, kind of where you're at and where you're going and wait till you're really ready. And, your body's going to take a hit. You're going to lose some motivation, but you will come back stronger and better than ever. I really believe that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's that getting yourself mentally prepared is so hard, to get to that point. And, everybody gets that motivation in a different way, I guess. Some people, go to Instagram and they go to their friends there and they're, they get that motivation. I think that's probably, it seems to be the driving force behind a lot of people's like posting, all their stuff. They're like, I need words of encouragement. I need that motivation to keep me going. I'm more of a person that kind of internalizes. I get a little bit angry with myself. I'm like, all right, you've got to do this. Like you don't have, I don't give myself a choice. Right. I'm like, you gotta, I kind of argue with myself. Right. And I go, look, if you want to keep going down this path, nothing's going to work right for you. You're not going to hit the goals you want to hit. The things that I enjoy doing in life, hunting and kayaking and doing those things become a lot harder when I'm heavier.
Yep, it's true.
So I have these things I love to do, and I'm like, well, I want to do more of that. So, this is my only option. I just have to get after it.
Exactly. I mean, that's the reality. At some point, you got to come back around and to use a pro wrestling analogy, you got to kick out. 1, 2, kick out. You got to kick out. Like you can't be pinned to the mat and be done. You can't submit. Like there's no getting out of it. You gotta come back. So it takes time. You just got to be strong and mentally resilient for that stuff. And it doesn't come easy. It doesn't come overnight. But in time, if you truly believe, you can do anything. I'm a firm believer of that because there's so many things that I said I would never do. I could never do. It's not possible to run, go on one of these races that I'm going to pay for the privilege of doing. And next thing I know, I do 1 5K. Boom. A month or two later, let's do another one. Boom. Next year, we're doing a 10K. Boom. This coming year, 2020, we're doing a 5 and a 10K. Boom. So there's all these things that like we think are not possible, but in reality, it's just our mental, our mindset is telling us this is not possible, but it actually is. And we just got to get on it and do it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really what it comes down to, man. I mean, that's, and you're seeing it now. You had every, reason to quit, right? I mean, you get hurt, right. You're mentally down, you're eating your feelings, and you got right back on the horse. It wasn't maybe as fast as you wanted, but man, you're right back on it. You're doing it. You just did a freaking 10K.
I did a freaking 10K, and that's why it's, it's so important to surround yourself with people that are encouraging and people, good friends that do things. Actually, speaking of good friends, I have to shout out one of our friends here. So one of mine and Kaitlyn's good friends, we've known her for a really long time. I'm not going to say her name. She knows who she is if I'm talking about her. I think she's actually going to come to the Flying Pig with us next year. We'll see if we can get that to happen.
No kidding.
But speaking of good friends, she after we completed the Flying Pig, she took the time to handwrite us a letter telling us how proud of us she was and how encouraging we were. Wow. Handwritten a letter and mailed it to us.
That's old school.
That is old school. But like the thought and things, if you're listening to this and you know somebody that needs some encouragement, don't text them right now. Sit down and write them a letter, because it means so much more when somebody does that. I'm not saying that texting somebody some words of encouragement is a bad thing.
Yeah.
But when somebody sits down and writes you like a full page letter, I mean, if you don't have friends like that, you're not experiencing friendship, I'm pretty sure. Like that was incredible.
Y'all are old school out there in Wisconsin, man. I'll tell you what.
Man, I'll tell you what, that's the first handwritten letter I think I've ever received. But it was the nicest thing. And we've got it put up on our fridge, and I've read it like 3 times since. It puts a smile on my face every time, to have a friend like that.
That is freaking awesome. That. I'll tell you what, I would be more likely to quit and give up and go back to my old eating ways if I lived out there and y'all got that damn Culver's out there. My wife and I traveled there for one of her best friend's weddings, and we were driving along and we're like, what is this Culver's? This is before I started my weight loss journey. This is still Big Gary likes to stop at every new state, like whatever restaurant or fast food we don't have back at home. Like we always make that a rule. Even now we're like, all right, we cannot eat anywhere we can get at home. And so we come across this Culver's place, and they have like these butter burgers and cheese curds. And I'm like, oh my God, this is heaven.
Yeah. Butter burgers. Yep. Real Wisconsin. Their little jingle saying thing is real Wisconsin butter makes a butter burger better.
Man, that's insane. And I'll tell you this, actually, this would have been Labor Day. Yeah, that's the one in September, Labor Day. I was down in Charlotte, North Carolina with my friend. We were visiting a theme park down there, Carowinds, and right outside of Carowinds, they had a Culver's, and it was like a trigger because I thought that Culver's was only available in the Midwest, and it was like a trigger. I'm like, we're stopping here. Like, I don't care. And it was a weekend. I usually kind of do what I want on the weekends within reason. But I was like, we're stopping at this damn Culver's. And so we went and tore that place up.
Yeah, it is good. It is not healthy, if anybody's curious.
No, not even close.
Not even in the ballpark. But yeah, if you've earned yourself a treat, that's a good treat to get. They definitely do a really good burger. And it, for a fast food, whatever, it's kind of whatever they call that, the fast casual type thing where you sit down and they bring it to you, but it's, essentially fast food. It's really 10 steps above like a McDonald's or a Burger King or anything. Like, it's actually good. Yeah.
Oh, and it's not even close. I mean, it's really good. Yeah,
it's as good as any burger you've had from anywhere.
Definitely. But before we get out of here, while we're talking about food a little bit, talk about that too. Cause you're a hunter, you like to eat a lot of meat. And I don't know that Kaitlyn's a vegetarian or a vegan or anything, but like, I'm sure that you guys, or maybe she's wanted to dabble in some of that just to try it out. And how does that balance work out if that's a thing?
I mean, we both eat meat pretty regularly. When it comes to wild game, the nice thing is that, venison, deer meat, is incredibly lean, so it's very high protein. It's actually really good for you.
Right.
The other animals I pretty much hunt are ducks and geese, and rabbits. All of that is actually really good for you as long as in a nice portioned amount. If you don't eat all of it. We try and balance our meals out a little more. So, we'll definitely try and do more veggies than protein,
Sure.
Small serving of protein with a large serving of veggies, a salad, something to go with it. We have chosen not to do any type of diet at all. We lightly track calories just to keep an idea of what we're on. And our goal right now is we try and shoot for 1,500 calories a day,
Not
which
bad.
is actually it's more calories than it's less calories than I burn in a day, which means I should theoretically be losing weight. And you can eat a substantial amount of food. You're not going to go hungry on 1,500 calories.
No.
And so that's really our goal. We're not trying to, with my thought and both of our thoughts with diets, we've tried some diets and they never stuck because you're always restricting something, right? And when you're restricting something, you're really not learning to eat. All of a sudden you go to a restaurant where there's nothing that you can eat that's in your diet, so you just go hog wild, right? Or whatever.
Yep.
With what we're doing, I just try and find a meal that's reasonable, something that sounds good to me, and then I try and eat a normal portion amount, which is difficult because from what I've been told, I've never traveled outside this country, but from what I've been told from everybody else, that we have enormous portions here.
We do. So, that's what I hear. I've never traveled either outside of the country, so I feel you on that.
So trying to eat, we try and eat 500 calories a meal. So trying to eat 500 calories is sometimes, it's kind of difficult when you get to places, but we try and be reasonable with ourselves. We've done a few things. We tried the cauliflower crust pizza. Have you ever tried that?
Never had that.
Pizza kick right now. So there's a brand. It's a frozen pizza. It's called Cauli Power is the name of it. And it's a frozen pizza. But the crust is like is basically cauliflower, right? It's like ground up, but it honestly has incredibly close to the texture of regular pizza. And this entire 12-inch frozen pizza is like, I know half of it's 300 calories because we split it. Yeah. Right. So we'll split this pizza and then we put our own toppings on. So we'll add like ground turkey and mushrooms or something to it because it doesn't have any toppings. It just has cheese.
Okay.
So we add it, and it comes out to about, the 500 calorie mark when we get there. So we've done some things like that. If we're having regular pizza or something, we try and eat, what we'll do is we'll start to cook the pizza. We'll make a salad first, right? You eat your salad. Yep. So that way you're not as hungry for as much of the pizza. Cause if you try and just get filled up on pizza, you're going to be eating a lot of calories.
100%. Yep.
So we just try and do things like that. Just be smart about it. Portion control is the huge thing.
100%.
To help with that, we normally try and drink a big glass of water before you eat, those type of things, just kind of the general things like that. But we haven't eliminated anything. We've just tried to make small substitutes to make the things that we enjoy work.
God, you guys sound like me a lot because that was what I started doing, and I've continued on that path. I just find things I like, eat less of them, and then next thing I know, I'm cutting out like burger buns and going to wraps, and I'm cutting out the wraps and going to the straight meat, and it's just modifying different things and finding what works for me.
Yeah, and we've really enjoyed cooking and exploring different things. There's a lot of really good food out there that I'd never had,
Sure.
or never really had in a way I liked,
Yeah.
I was never, I was the guy, I'd go out, for like Saturday night prime rib, and I would skip the salad bar, get a cup of soup, as many crackers as I could, and chow down like a king size prime rib. And now I'm the guy that gets most of the time, and there's still special occasions, right? But I'll get like the petite out of the prime rib and skip the potato, get a big salad, or maybe I'll get a baked potato and only eat half of it or something like that. Just trying to pare down, but not eliminate the things I enjoy, because I enjoy good food.
No, I hear you, man. I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
Well, dude, I got to tell you, man, this has been a crazy hour. I don't know how these things go by so fast, other than good company, good conversation. I want to end it with this because this is a personal fun thing for me. So what I want you to do right now is I want you to drop your Instagram handle for the listeners at home or in their car right now.
It is at an average Jesse.
Okay. All right. So this is what I want everybody to do. Now I've met this Jesse here, and he is phenomenal. I really, really enjoyed your company. Like, I really enjoyed our conversation when we met, and I enjoyed today. And I believed you to be just a cool, genuine guy. If we lived closer, I believe we'd be hanging out on the regular. So
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So what I want people to do right now, stop what you're doing, swipe up or whatever, go to the home screen, open up your Instagram, type in an average Jesse. I want to make this guy the next big Instagram phenomenon. Like, I don't know if J Lo is still a thing, but step aside, because we got J Wo in the house right now, and I want y'all to go follow right now at an average Jesse. And now he's only got about 5 or 6 photos up, so this is gonna be really extra. But if y'all can,
which makes it really easy to go through and like them all.
Yes. So I want you guys to go through when you follow him, J-Wo here. When you go here, I want you to go and I want you to like every photo, all 5 or 6 of them. And I want you to just drop a little comment, hashtag post more or something, or hashtag J-Wo or something. We're going to get this phenomenon going. I'm going to coordinate this with your wife, and we're going to get you up there and boosted in the Instagram community here. We're going to get some people over there to you, and they're going to tell you that your ass better start posting a little bit more.
I'll start posting some more. I'm going to try and post at least once a week for the next month, and then we'll step it up from there. All
right. Baby steps. If I got to come to Cincinnati when you challenge me to do a 5K and a 10K, if I got to come there and by that time I go to at an average Jesse or whatever you have it called at that time, that point in time, and I see like less than 20 posts, I'm going to be really upset.
Okay. 10 of them might be the same day as the Flying Pig 2020. No, I'm just, I will start posting more for you, Gary.
Okay. There you go. Well, do it. Don't just do it for me. Do it for you. Like you're into some cool stuff here. You're out there kayaking. There's all kinds of content for you out there.
There is, but whenever I'm in the moment, I'm like, well, who's going to care to look at this? That's what I always think. And then I'm like, and then the moment's passed. But, Kaitlyn posts pictures of everything we eat, and, and she's all over the place. She posts pictures. She'll have tons of pictures when we're out kayaking. I will try and do some too. So there'll definitely be content there. Every time we'll go kayaking, I'll post at least a picture then.
Don't make me sick Daryl on you, because the next thing I know, he'll have you doing a podcast of your own and everything. So
dude,
it's
Daryl
all over.
Scares me. He's going to show up at my house or something. He'll knock on my door. You know what's funny? You mentioned that. That podcast of our own. Kaitlyn yesterday says to me, she goes, so what do you think about doing our own podcast? I looked at her. I was like, let me get through this thing with Gary.
Yeah.
And I'll think about it. So maybe that might be a thing at some point. But
that might be a thing. Well, this thing's not airing until like probably late June, early July. That's how far ahead I work. But we'll see.
Cow.
Yeah, we'll see where you guys are.
Well, happy birthday to myself when I listen back to this. So.
Well, you said July. It may not be. It's definitely not first week of July. I know that. It'll be probably more like late June. But you may or may not have had a couple of things happen by then. Podcasts and God only knows what else. I put it this way: when this thing finally airs, if he doesn't have more than 20 posts on his Instagram page, y'all just light up the torches of comments and just light him up. Wake up his phone, blow up his notifications.
Gosh. All right. I got that much time. I can get some stuff on there. I'll get some stuff on there. I'll make it decent. By then I'll be kayaking. There'll be lots of good pictures. We kayak in these beautiful spots. Everybody will enjoy it.
Okay. So. Well, you have yourself a good rest of your night. Tell Kaitlyn I said hello. And dude, this was awesome, man. Thanks for your time. Thanks for hanging out. And we'll definitely have to catch up with this again. And actually, you know what? Okay, I'll end on this. Next year at the Pig, why don't we make it a point that all 4 of us sit down and do a podcast together? How about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm down with that.
Because at that point, you guys are probably going to have a podcast going to be more popular than I will be even at that point.
Yeah. Apparently now it's a done deal. I mentioned it once briefly, and now we've just got to do it. Okay.
Well, we'll see. That's the thing, Jesse, because like by the time that comes, you guys will have exceeded my popularity, and I'll be clamoring onto your popularity, trying to get that rub from you guys, and trying to.
Man. Yeah. That's a tall mountain to climb, bud. You're up there.
Oh,
You're
man.
up there. Everybody knows you.
Oh,
You
geez.
probably can't even go to the grocery store, can you?
Get out of here.
Hey, man, it's been really good talking to you. It's good catching up.
Remember at the beginning of the show, I mentioned a little thing called Patreon? Well, I'd love to have you join me. But Gary, what is Patreon? It's a website that is helping small creators like me raise funds to further expand their creative visions. For as low as $1 a month, you can help me further my dream of reaching as many people as possible and eventually taking the show on the road to meet all these fine people face to face and add a video element to this podcast. If you were to donate $4 a month, you'd be hearing this show a few days earlier with no commercials and getting access to my close friends group on Instagram. Donate $10 a month and you get all that plus your name right at the beginning of the show alongside other producers. But act fast. That tier is limited to 10 people. I've got a whole lot more to offer and you can get all the details over at patreon.com/Gary Cantrell. If you made it this far, I really appreciate you. Thanks so much for checking out the show and I'll talk to you again really soon. HardWorkAlwaysWins.com. It's more than just a clothing line. It's my mantra. I speak it, I wear it, I live it, and I'd love to have you join the Hard Work Squad. We're constantly adding new items to the store, including our brand new Future-ish hats, which come in a variety of colors, including camo. I mean, who doesn't like camo? We also just put our famous Splash logo in gold to match our OG logo, and there's so much more here. You just got to check it out. Here's the best part. Use the code PODCAST at checkout to take 10% off of your very first order and join the Hard Work Squad today.